and gentlemen, I present to you my 1963 Bel Air two-door post. And it's actually only been on the channel once before for a similar issue. I had to fix some clutch linkage items, and we got that taken care of, but it really hasn't been on the channel much after that. So I'd like to give a little backstory on the Bel Air, because I don't think I've gone into it too much. But this car here is the reason I started this YouTube channel. It gave me the kind of motivation to start filming the stuff that I did. So when I got the Dakota and started that project, I didn't miss out on videoing it and sharing it, you know, and stuff like that. So backstory on the car: I bought it in 2014. I sold two of my Dodge Darts. I had a 74 Dodge Dart Sport, and then I had a 73 Dodge Dart Swinger that I had swapped in the fuel injected Magnum motor into. And they were great projects, but I kind of got out of the Mopar thing because it was so expensive. And I'm gonna give a video on that here soon. But anyway, I bought this car about 2 months before I got married, and my wife almost killed me because she really loved the Dart that I sold. So sold those two cars, bought this. When I bought it, it was a 283 car with a Power Glide transmission. So since that, I've done a few things. First of all, I swapped a 4-speed BorgWarner Super T10 into it that I bought from a swap meet. It had came out of a 69 or 70 Chevelle. And part of that is the issue that I'm having now, I think. And so I did the 4-speed conversion on it, and then I got tired of looking at the engine bay and how gross and dirty it was, and the undercoating and everything else that's on it. So I restored the engine bay, and let me show you guys that. So I basically pulled the entire front clip off the car besides the fender. So I pulled out the core support, grill, I think they call this a header panel, bumper, all that out. And I tore it down to basic necessities. I was able to clean all the undercoating off the wall, off the firewall, that is. I pulled the motor out, cleaned it up, painted it. It's going to need some touch-up, which that's okay. It's not too hard to do. New valve covers, new carburetor, some things like that. It's got a good 4-core aluminum radiator in it. And yeah, I just completely restored the car. If you look at, I completely restored the engine bay. And if you look at the old pictures, you can see how deplorable it was. This was a ton of work. I painted the firewall myself. I painted everything myself. Some of it you can probably tell, and that's okay. But overall, I kept thinking the whole time I was doing this project is, man, I should have videotaped it. I should have put it on YouTube. And then from then on out, the projects that I took on is when I started the YouTube channel. So this is a big pride and accomplishment for me, because I've never restored something before. It still needs some work. I'd like to eventually fix the firewall when I finally buy a welder and learn some fabrication skills, because it was beat in for the HEI distributor previously to me owning the car. And then I'm working on the wipers. Wipers aren't working right now, so the wiper motor's not in there because it doesn't work. And you know, there's a lot more plans for this car. I'm definitely going to put air conditioning on it. I'm ready to put power steering on it because I'm tired of fighting the wheel on this thing. And it's such a good cruiser. literally the purpose of this car. It's not really fast, but it drives really, really well, with the exception of the clutch part that we're gonna fix today. So it's got a really, really, really bad clutch chatter. See how, if I can give you an example of how bad this thing shakes on takeoff. It just chatters very, very bad. And I think I know why. I ordered all new parts to do the 4-speed conversion on this car, except a couple things. And that would be, actually it's just one thing, the armature for the clutch fork. Sorry, I couldn't think of it. And so I bought the correct clutch fork. I've been using the Chevelle one. I don't know why it didn't click to me that that may not be compatible. But I also bought some other things because this is kind of a problem that's been with the car ever since I did the 4-speed conversion. And it may be due to some older parts like the flywheel. So I bought a flywheel, bought a clutch, I bought the clutch fork, and I bought another arm that goes to the clutch fork, and I'll show you why I bought another arm. It's kind of a bonehead thing that I did. And yeah, so we're gonna pull the transmission out and get all that other stuff replaced and put it back in. And hopefully it takes care of the problem, because when this thing gets warm, it's really hard to get in the gears. And there's no more adjustability in the clutch. So I think by putting the correct linkage stuff on it, we'll be good to go. The first thing that I'm gonna do to pull this transmission out is I'm gonna start removing the shifter. And I've already got the boot taken off. And you can see the hole that I cut out in the floorboards for the 4-speed. And this bolt right here at the top holds the shifter to the bracket. That's one of the first things I'm going to take out. Shouldn't be real hard. Best thing about this car is I know that everything's going to be standard because it's old enough that that's all there was. Okay, so you're looking at the side of the transmission, and you can probably tell that I've got some leaks. I'm going to try to address that when I get the transmission out. So this won't be like a one-day thing, unfortunately. But these are the shifter arms for, I think this is 1 and 2, and this is 3 and 4. I don't remember. And this is definitely reversed. But I've done this the wrong way before, so I'm making note that the armature is facing upwards, which is great. So I got to remember to install it that way, because if you install it the other way around, it's going to shift backwards. So instead of going like 3 to 4, it's going to go to 4 to 3. So we don't want to do that, but I'm making note of it. There's no adjusters here on this shifter. They're only on the back, which is nice. That means I'm not going to get out of place here. So I'm just going to pull these nuts off and pull the armatures off. It will go into gear like that, and then I just try to bring it back and pull the nuts off. Now let's see if I can get the rest of the shifter off, which I know there's another bolt right here. That looks like it's 1/2 inch. Nope, it's 9/16. There's a nut on the back of this, so I got to make sure that that doesn't spin. It looks like that. Yep, that's it. That's all that holds this shifter on. I thought there was more bolts in that. Alright, so now this whole shifter assembly is out. And I'm pulling out the bottom just like that. I'm probably going to have to do something about the ball on top. I forgot about that part. Here is what I forgot to do. Pull the ball off. Pull the lock nut off. And then pull the boot off. Now it'll come out. So this car, if you look at the trans back, so this car has a drive shaft that goes through this tunnel. Right here is the carrier bearing, and then it goes back to the rear end there. So in order to pull the drive shaft out, I have to remove the bolts back there on the rear end, and then I have to remove these bolts here so it'll fold and move, and then I can pull it out of the back of the transmission here. So let me pull those bolts out, and the carrier bearing bolts out, and then we'll pull the transmission. We'll pull the drive shaft out. Alright, so I'll pull the drive shaft out. You can see it missing there, leaking some stuff on the ground. This is the front of the drive shaft, which is a Turbo 400 yoke. It's the same yoke for the Super T10. So I had this drive shaft built to do this conversion. And if you look back here, I just have the drive shaft kind of hanging out. It's going to be really important that I do not put this car back on the ground before the transmission and drive shaft is back in, so I don't mess that up. Because if you look in here, you see this thing sliding. Maybe. It's kind of hard to see. There it is. That thing sliding right there. That's the carrier bearing. And I can pull it all the way out, but I would rather not to. So I'm just going to pull it back and leave it there. Kind of leave that drive shaft hanging like that. And now I'm going to work on getting the transmission out. Alright, so first thing, pull up these transmission to bell housing bolts. Ooh, that's on there. It's going to take some doing. There goes that one. There it goes. I'll pull these two out real quick and then I'll get to the other side. Man, look how nice that one came out. Alright, getting closer and closer to getting the trans out. I've got all four of the bell housing to transmission bolts out. And these are two bolts for the transmission mount. They come out real easy. One thing that surprised me when I did this conversion is I didn't have to modify the transmission crossmember. It bolts up the exact same place where the power glide did. Alright, so now a couple more things. Got to get this speedometer cable off that you can't see over here. I'll just get a channel lock on that. Then I need to support the trans. Pull the bolt out of here, which looks like there's 9/16 with a 5/8 on the back side, and it'll get ready to come out. There's the speedometer cable. Just has this threaded little deal that goes on the side of the transmission. Most times you can just get it hand tight and turn it just a little bit with a channel lock or something. There it goes. I'd like to pull it off if possible. Alright, so I'm going to pull, these are 11/16 nuts on the back of these bolts. I'm going to pull the nuts off, so as soon as I get the jack under there, I can pull the bolts out and pull the cross member out of the way. Time to get this jack in place. Since there's pressure on the jack now, I can pull these bolts out and pull this cross member out. Bingo. Get this thing out of the way. And now, this is the tough part. Let's let it down some. It's gonna get to a point where it doesn't want to come down anymore. And let me see if I can. Whew. There it comes. It's coming out. It's got to come ways back so we clear that bell housing a little bit more. And now, very carefully, let's let it down. Alright, so now I'm just going to come down with it. There we go. Let me get out of here. There it is, trans is out. And there's the transmission. Hard part is done. And it didn't even take that long. Alright, so yeah, trans is out. I kind of forgot to point this out earlier. But the Bel Air is one of the harder cars to work on in the garage. Because it is so damn long. And I have to get to my toolbox, climbing over things. And gets really close there, the deck lid. But these are things I'm willing to put up with. But yeah, it fits almost, you know, wall to wall. There's not a lot of room when you close the door either. When it's in here. So it doesn't quite fit, which is usually why I don't keep it at the house. But if I don't keep it at the house, I don't drive it as much. Which is why I need a shop, which is a whole another story. Alright, so about to get to the meat and potatoes of this whole project. I'm going to pull the bell housing off and the clutch off and all that good stuff. So let me get under there. Time to get the bell housing off. So I've showed this before with the Nova. One of the best ways to get to all these bolts is a real long extension, especially on an automatic transmission, so you can come up and over the trans. But luckily, it's not too bad to do it with the transmission out of the way when you have a 4-speed. Show you more what I'm talking about. This is the wobbler in like a 9/16 on a long extension. Okay, so here's the last bolt. There's only 6, 2 on each side and then 2 up all around the crown. And just put some knowledge out there. The battery's disconnected. So if you didn't do that by now, you probably should have. Alright, so all the bell housing bolts are out. And I'm going to show you guys a couple things before I pull it off. I'll give you guys a good look. This armature right here is called the clutch fork. And it, when you push it this way, puts pressure on this throw-out bearing and on the clutch to release the clutch springs and release the clutch. I bought everything to do a 4-speed conversion on this car except the clutch fork, which why? I can't tell you, because I don't know why I didn't put that together. But I believe this clutch fork to be wrong, and I'll show you. I have the new one here, so I'm going to pull this out, and then this rod right here I'm also going to replace, and I'll show you all that. There's the spring underneath here. There it goes. Fantastic. And this is now loose, and now this whole bell housing should come off. Just like that. Everything in place. And here's the clutch, which if you're looking at it, you're thinking maybe that it doesn't look that old, and it's not. But a friend had replaced his and then changed some stuff up and put a more heavy duty clutch in, so he gave me this one. So I put it in trying to think that maybe it would rectify, maybe it would solve my problem with chattering, and it did not. and I think it has to do with a couple things. So let me pull the clutch off, which is just these 9/16 bolts all around it. I'm going to need to get that up and out of the way. Oops, there we go. I can hang that up there. I don't want to ever squeeze something between that bell housing. All right, so let me pull all these bell housing, these clutch bolts off, and we'll look at the flywheel. Okay, so I got the clutch off. It's down here. And this is what I'm concerned about, is the flywheel. And it's real hard to see in this light, so I'm going to pull it all the way off here in a minute. But it's got a lot of hot spots in it. And it's just not great. And I think that has a lot to do with the chatter. And I think replacing that is going to help a lot. So I'm going to pull these nuts off, probably with an impact, because they probably have red Loctite on them. If I remember right, I did use the red instead of the blue, which is, I should be okay with the impact, should be able to pull them off. But you always Loctite these nuts, and we'll go over that when we put the new flywheel on. But here, let me grab the impact and zip this off, and we'll be good under the car, and I'll show you the new parts. You can kind of see like that big hot spot there, and there's a couple more around it. Not great. And this is a somewhat new pressure plate, and it has these like little spots down here, which could be causing issues. I'm not 100% sure. And then the disc looks pretty good actually, so I probably will keep this. And the pressure plate, just in case I ever come across another project that needs it, because that's happened twice before in clutches, so I wind up keeping them. This is the throw out bearing, and ooh, check that out. That thing is jacked up. That's not good. I wonder if that has anything to do with my issue. Wow. It's chewed up on both sides. Huh. That definitely could cause problems. Wonder why it's so chewed up. Anybody seen something like that before? Let me know. Interesting. Let's look at the difference on these clutch forks. The black one is from the Chevelle that was in my car. The metal one, I need to paint it, is for the Bel Air, or 63, 64 Impala Bel Air. And it's a remanufactured one, so it's not original, but it's really good deal. But check this out. Look at the difference in height on these things. And I really think this has a lot to do with just the angle of the release on the clutch not being great. So I'm running out of adjustment in my linkage because it's an old, mechanical spring clutch. There's no hydraulics. You can, turn a nut to get more or less engagement on the clutch. Well, I don't have any more to turn. The arm is all the way out when I'm using this. And that kind of makes sense because when it's in the car, it kind of goes back like this and pushes the bearing in, right? So it's going like this. Well, if it's, I'm trying to explain like this. If it's, this is all the adjustment I have, I can only go back so far. This being at a better angle and more up to the car, to the front of the car, gives me probably a good inch of adjustment that I don't have right now, which is going to let me kind of fine tune this and not overextend the clutch. And I also think that has to do with how the ears got bent here, because I may have been either overextending it or binding it or something. And that's, that's the release bearing or a clutch release bearing or throwout bearing, whatever you want to call it. But it's no bueno. So I really think this is going to do the trick here. It's a bit of a difference for sure. I want to paint it so it doesn't rust over. I also ordered this rod here, which goes from the clutch to the Z-bar. And I have ordered it before, but the last time I ordered it, I cut this off. I cut this off, probably bad idea. I probably should have just drilled a hole. I cut this off because I was like, well, that's not going to hold up here. And it's actually meant to align this rod into this fork. And the original forks have a very small hole like this. This is for the spring, but just gives you an idea here. And the aftermarket ones are drilled out a little bit more. So I bought the right one, so it goes through and aligns like it's supposed to. I probably don't have to replace this, but I'm going to anyway. I just like that extra length, and I like the fact that it's correct for the vehicle. So I need to pull out the rest of the new parts and kind of get it figured out before I get too heavy into that, which is the clutch and the flywheel. I'm gonna order a seal kit for the T10. I need to, it's leaking around here and it's leaking around these guys, and the rear, I just saw that the rear seal was leaking, and I'm gonna try to slow that down a bit because when it sits for a while it leaks a lot. So let me order that and then we'll put everything back together. So gotta order some parts. Man, look how dirty I am. That's fantastic. I knew this was gonna be a dirty job. I even wore a different shirt just in case, and then I changed it at the last minute, but oh well. This car leaks the worst, and I drive it the most out of all the older cars, so, and I knew that this thing leaked, so that's why I'm covered in grease. So I'm gonna get the garage cleaned up, get some parts ordered, and then we'll throw everything back together. Well, finally, my parts came in, so I need to tear down the trans real quick and get it resealed and fix all the leaks and stuff like that. So I've also got 2 bolts in the case that are stripped, and they've been stripped since I bought it. So I'm gonna look at that and see what my options are to fix it, and we'll kind of go from there. So let me tear this thing down. All right, that's the last part. Did a lot more than I was planning on this transmission, and probably should have started on this earlier, but that's okay. I put washers and a lock nut on. This is the bolt with the helicoil because it was a little tall, and these are the longer bolts. And I did that again so it doesn't pull those threads out when it bottoms out. I got it fairly tight. This is cast iron and steel bolts into aluminum case, so you just have to be really careful because they don't jive. So I'm happy with it. If you look all around it, it kind of pushed that RTV out on the one side, so I'm happy with that. And I think we're pretty good to go. I'm gonna get the flywheel and the clutch installed. I'm gonna save you all the video of that because you've seen me do it before and you saw me pull it off. So I'm gonna put the flywheel in, torque them down. I really hope that the starter doesn't have to be shimmed any more than it already is. So we'll see on that. I may start it before I put the transmission in. And then I'm going to put the clutch on, get the transmission stabbed, and and then we're gonna drive it and see if it's fixed. So fingers crossed. I'll see y'all in just a little bit when I'm getting the linkage set up. Okay, so the trans is back in. Driveshaft's hooked up. Everything else is tightened down. I had a little bit of a issue with the getting the transmission into the bell housing, and I had to tap the holes or re-tap the holes on the bell housing itself for the transmission bolts that go into it. For some reason they were really dirty, so I had a hard time getting it to kind of pull the trans back up where it needs to be. So that took a while. It's been a really long day, but all the hard part stuff is done. So like I said, everything's in the car. I don't quite have the shifter stuff put back on it yet, so I'll still do that. I'll probably do that in the morning. I wanted to show you guys the difference in the linkage parts that I bought, and let me see if I can get it down there for you. All right, so down here, it's hard to see. This piece right here is the adjustment for the clutch. And it used to be all the way here at the end. Like this block was at least like one full length of itself down. And there was no more adjustment. Now, it's actually working really, seems to be working really well. I need to start it here in a minute and kind of go through the gears. But I've got a lot more room for adjustment. So it's not done basically, so I can fine tune. I think I need to get a couple different washers and stuff to get that a little bit more secure, but that's okay for now. So I'm about to start it up, and remember previously it had the wrong clutch fork and the wrong I come to find out the wrong clutch rod that went to the clutch fork. I don't know where it's at right now, but it was half an inch longer, so I must have ordered the wrong one on that one too. So anyways, all that's updated. It's got the appropriate linkage for a 63 Impala Bel Air Biscayne with a small block in it. So let me fire it up, and we'll go through the gears. And what I'm looking for is when I fire it up that I can get it in the gear without it like crunching or anything. And I let off and the tires will move, and then clutch back in and brake, everything moves, everything stops moving. And that kind of tells me I'm in the right proximity. And so we'll do that real quick. And if that works out well, which I'm hoping it does, I'll drive it in the morning. So let's do that. Well, I think we're in business. So tonight I'm gonna pull it off the jack stands and clean up in here a little bit, and then we'll drive in the morning. Well, good morning. Here comes the test to see if all of this work was worth it. Gotta let it warm up, and then just give her a good old test drive, see how it goes. So let me get this thing, put some heat in it. Alright, so I think we're warm enough. Here goes nothing. I will tell you that the clutch pedal is way easier to press than it's ever been, so I think the geometry has been fixed. Don't chatter. That's good. much softer than it ever has been. I really think that geometry is just completely fixed. If I still have chatter, it's gotta be something to do in the trans, maybe? I don't know. I just know the car is really heavy. And, you know, well, 283 does okay, so. I think that's gonna be it for this one. I appreciate you guys coming along as always. You know, do the things. If you enjoy the channel, you enjoy the videos, hit the subscribe button. We need some more subscribers here. And if you want to get some merchandise, we have a couple things on our website, Racerxgarage.com. And yeah, I'm gonna wash this old girl, and then I'm gonna drive it a bunch today, and we'll just see how that goes. Try to break in this clutch. So anyways, you know the deal. Until next time, y'all